The night sky over Los Angeles was ablaze, not with stars, but with the fiery inferno consuming the towering Bennett Tech headquarters. Flames danced wildly, licking at the glass walls as thick black smoke billowed into the air. The city streets pulsed with chaos. Sirens blared, fire trucks surrounded the scene, and anxious onlookers watched in horror. It was a night that would test the limits of courage and fate. If you enjoyed this heartfelt story, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more amazing tales. Among the chaos stood Ryan Carter, a firefighter known for his unwavering calm under pressure. With a sharp tug at his oxygen mask, Ryan steeled himself, ready to face the inferno. Through the crackling radio in his ear, his commanding officer's urgent voice broke through. "Carter, we've got someone trapped on the 20th floor. Female. Name's Sophia Bennett. CEO of the company." Ryan's jaw tightened as he processed the name. Sophia Bennett, the powerhouse CEO, known as much for her ambition as her intimidating demeanor. Now, her life depended on him. "Copy that. Heading up now," he replied, signaling his team before charging into the blazing building. Inside, the air was thick with smoke, the heat unbearable, and visibility near zero. The fire roared around him, consuming everything in its path. But Ryan moved with determination, navigating the chaotic hallways with steady breaths and sharp eyes. Every second counted. Then, he heard it. A faint cough coming from a partially closed office door. Wasting no time, Ryan raised his axe and swung it with precision. The door splintered, revealing a dimly lit office choked with smoke. Standing by the window, trying to stay calm despite the terror in her eyes, was Sophia Bennett. Her pristine designer suit was now crumpled and stained, and streaks of soot marred her face. Yet, even in this chaos, she carried an air of poise that spoke to her unshakable will. "Are you okay?" Ryan asked, stepping into the room, his voice firm yet reassuring. Sophia coughed, nodding. I think so. The fire spread too fast. I couldn't get out in time." "I'm Ryan," he said, moving closer. "I'm going to get you out of here. Stay close to me and do exactly as I say, okay?" Her skeptical gaze met his, but something in his unwavering calm made her nod. "Okay," she said, her voice trembling slightly but full of resolve. Guiding her out into the smoke-filled corridor, Ryan moved quickly but carefully, shielding her from the blazing flames that licked at the walls. The heat was suffocating, and the roar of the fire was deafening. The stairwell was their only hope, but as they descended, a sudden, ominous cracking sound echoed above them. "Move!" Ryan shouted, pulling Sophia back just as a section of the ceiling gave way, crashing onto the staircase and blocking their path. Sophia gasped, stumbling back as debris rained down around them. "What now?" she asked, her voice breaking with fear. Ryan didn't miss a beat. "We find another way," he said, his tone steady. "Stay with me." Retracing their steps, Ryan led her through the labyrinth of hallways, his mind racing for alternatives. Sophia's grip on his arm tightened with every step, her fear palpable but her trust in him growing. Finally, they reached an emergency exit. Ryan kicked the door open, and a rush of cool night air greeted them like a long-lost friend. "We're almost there," he said, helping Sophia down the fire escape ladder. But just as they reached the ground, Sophia's strength gave out. Her legs buckled, and she clutched at her chest, gasping for air. I can't breathe," she whispered, her voice barely audible. Ryan caught her before she could fall, lowering her gently to the ground. "Stay with me, Sophia," he murmured, brushing a soot-covered strand of hair from her face. His eyes filled with concern as paramedics rushed over, administering oxygen. Slowly, color returned to her cheeks, and after a tense moment, her eyes fluttered open. Her gaze met Ryan's, and for a moment, the chaos around them seemed to fade. There was something unspoken in her expression. Relief, gratitude, and perhaps a glimmer of admiration. "You kept your promise," she said softly, her voice still weak. Ryan smiled, his tone gentle but firm. I always do. As the paramedics took over, Ryan stepped back, watching as they loaded Sophia into the ambulance. A wave of relief washed over him, but he couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't the end of their story. And as Sophia was driven away, her thoughts echoed his own. This was only the beginning. Days after the fire, Sophia Bennett stood at a podium in the grand conference hall of her company's headquarters. The room was packed with reporters, cameras flashing as she addressed the media with her signature poise. She outlined the company's plans for rebuilding and recovery, her commanding tone leaving no room for doubt that Bennett Tech would rise from the ashes stronger than ever. Yet, beneath her polished exterior, there was a subtle vulnerability, a shadow left behind by the life-threatening ordeal. As she neared the end of her speech, her voice softened, her demeanor shifting slightly. I want to extend my deepest gratitude to the Los Angeles Fire Department, she said. Their courage saved not only our building but also my life. Without them, I wouldn't be standing here today. Her gaze scanned the room, landing on a familiar figure standing at the back. There he was, Ryan Carter, the firefighter who had pulled her from the flames. Dressed in a stiff button-up shirt, he looked out of place among the sleek suits and designer dresses. Ryan shifted uncomfortably, wishing he could disappear into the crowd. But their eyes met, and for a fleeting moment, the noise in the room seemed to fade. There was something in the way they looked at each other, something unspoken yet undeniable. As the event wound down and reporters began to leave, Ryan made his way toward the exit, eager to escape the spotlight. He wasn't used to this kind of attention. It felt strange and out of place in his otherwise practical, adrenaline-filled life. But just as he reached the door, a voice stopped him. "Ryan," Sophia called, weaving through the crowd with surprising ease. He turned, surprised to see her approaching him directly. "Miss Bennett," he greeted, nodding politely. "Sophia," she corrected, offering a small smile. Up close, she seemed less like the untouchable CEO he'd read about and more human. "I just wanted to thank you personally. You didn't just save my life, you risked yours to do it. I can't imagine how I'll ever repay you for that." Ryan shrugged modestly. "I was just doing my job." Sophia's gaze softened. "Maybe, but not everyone would have done it the way you did. You didn't just save me. You made me feel safe when I was terrified." For a moment, Ryan didn't know what to say. He wasn't used to receiving this kind of gratitude, let alone from someone like Sophia Bennett. Before he could respond, she took a breath and added, "I know this is a bit unconventional, but would you let me buy you a cup of coffee? As a thank you." Ryan hesitated, glancing around at the high-powered executives still lingering nearby. He wasn't sure what to make of her offer, but there was something genuine in her tone, something that made him curious. Finally, he nodded. "I guess I could use a break." Sophia's smile widened, and for the first time, felt truly unguarded. "Great. There's a cafe just around the corner. It's nothing fancy, I promise." The atmosphere of the cafe was worlds away from the polished, high-stakes environment of the press conference. The cozy space was filled with the rich aroma of freshly brewed coffee and the gentle hum of quiet conversations. Sophia and Ryan sat across from each other at a small corner table, the stark contrast between their lives almost comical. She, in her tailored designer suit, looked like she belonged in a glossy magazine spread. He, in his slightly wrinkled shirt and simple demeanor, was the embodiment of quiet strength. "This is not what I expected," Ryan said, glancing around the cafe with a faint smile. Sophia raised an eyebrow. "What were you expecting?" "Something with chandeliers and gold-plated coffee cups," he replied, a smirk tugging at his lips. Sophia laughed softly, and the sound caught even her by surprise. "I get enough of that at work. Sometimes I just want something real, you know?" Ryan nodded, taking a sip of his coffee. "I get that. My world's different, but the chaos can get overwhelming. Sometimes you need to step away." As the conversation flowed, Sophia began to open up in a way she hadn't in years. She spoke about the constant pressure of being at the top, the expectations, the scrutiny, and the fear of failure. People think I have it all together, she admitted, tracing the rim of her coffee cup. But honestly, some days, I feel like I'm just barely holding it all together. Ryan listened quietly, his eyes steady and attentive. Sounds familiar, he said after a moment. When I started firefighting, I thought it was all about running into burning buildings and saving lives. But there's a weight to it when you lose people, when the job takes more than you thought it would. You have to learn how to carry it without letting it crush you. Sophia looked at him, her expression thoughtful. I guess we're not so different after all, she said softly. Ryan met her gaze, the tension between them shifting into something warmer. Maybe not, he said, a small smile playing on his lips. For a moment, they sat in comfortable silence, the noise of the cafe fading into the background. There was a connection between them, unexpected but undeniable. As they finished their coffee and stepped back out into the bustling streets of Los Angeles, neither knew exactly what the future held. But as Sophia glanced at Ryan one last time before they parted ways, she couldn't help but wonder if their worlds, so different on the surface, were meant to collide. Sophia and Ryan's bond grew stronger over the weeks as they stepped into each other's worlds. Sophia, dressed in casual attire far from her usual corporate suits, found herself at Station 27, watching Ryan in his element. The smell of smoke, the clanging of tools, and the laughter of his fellow firefighters felt oddly comforting. She was captivated by the way Ryan spoke with passion about his work, the way he reassured nervous children during a station tour, and the easy camaraderie he shared with his team. For Sophia, this simplicity was refreshing, a world far removed from the polished boardrooms she lived in. Ryan, on the other hand, found himself in spaces that felt entirely foreign. At a grand corporate gala, he stood by Sophia's side, the sharp edges of his suit stiff and unfamiliar. The glittering chandeliers, expensive wines, and sharp conversations about stocks and mergers were a stark contrast to the fires he battled. He watched Sophia glide through the crowd, poised and confident, and couldn't help but admire her grace. But as the night went on, the gap between their worlds began to feel wider. While she seemed at home here, Ryan felt out of place, like he didn't belong. Their differences started to show in quieter moments. Sophia struggled with mounting pressure from her board members, who scrutinized her every move. Ryan, meanwhile, questioned whether he fit into her world at all. These unspoken doubts hovered between them, growing heavier with each passing day. Then came the breaking point. A tabloid article surfaced, splashed with a provocative headline, Sophia Bennett's secret romance. Is her billion-dollar empire at risk? The article criticized her for dating someone beneath her status, painting Ryan as a liability to her image. The backlash was immediate. Board members expressed their concerns in tense meetings, warning Sophia that her personal life was tarnishing the company's reputation. Under the weight of this scrutiny, Sophia began to pull away. Her texts to Ryan grew fewer, her excuses more frequent. Ryan, feeling the distance, confronted her one evening. What's going on, Sophia? Are we even doing this anymore? He asked, his voice calm but edged with hurt. Sophia hesitated, her heart heavy. I don't know, Ryan. This is complicated. My world, your world, they're just so different. His jaw tightened, and after a moment, he nodded. I get it. Maybe we're too different after all. Without another word, Ryan walked away, leaving Sophia standing there, torn between her love for him and the expectations weighing her down. Alone in her penthouse that night, Sophia stared out at the city skyline, replaying Ryan's words in her head. She felt like she was losing something important, something real. A late-night call with her best friend, Jessica, finally pushed her to confront her fears. Do you love him? Jessica asked, her voice unwavering. Sophia hesitated, her throat tightening. I do, she whispered. Jessica's response was simple but firm. Then fight for him. Don't let fear decide your life. The next day, Sophia made a decision. She drove to Station 27, stepping out of her car with a resolve she hadn't felt in weeks. Inside, Ryan was working on one of the fire trucks, his back to her. When he turned and saw her, surprise flickered across his face. "Sophia," he said, wiping his hands on a rag. "What are you doing here?" "I came to apologize," she said, her voice steady but full of emotion. "I let fear and expectations get in the way. But none of that matters. What matters is you. I want this, Ryan. I want us." For a moment, Ryan studied her, the tension in his shoulders slowly easing. Then a small smile broke through. "You sure? Because my world isn't going to change. It's messy and loud, and it comes with a lot of smoke." Sophia laughed, relief washing over her. "I think I can handle a little smoke." Weeks later, Sophia hosted a charity gala for the Los Angeles Fire Department, a grand event that brought together two worlds that rarely met. Dressed in a stunning gown, Sophia stood on stage and spoke passionately about the bravery of firefighters, singling out Ryan's heroism during the Bennett tech fire. "These men and women are the real heroes of our city," she said, her voice unwavering. "And I'm proud to say one of them has my heart." Applause filled the room, and Ryan, standing quietly in the crowd, felt his face flush. As their eyes met, Sophia smiled. A bold, genuine smile that told him she wasn't afraid anymore. Later that night, on the rooftop of Sophia's penthouse, the two of them sat together, looking out over the city lights. "I used to think love and ambition couldn't coexist," Sophia said softly. "That I had to choose one or the other." Ryan glanced at her, a faint smirk on his lips. "And now," she smiled, leaning into him, "now I know I don't have to choose. With the right person, you can have both." Ryan chuckled, pulling her closer. "Guess that makes me the right person." Sophia laughed, her voice light and free. "No doubt about it." As they sat together, the city sprawling before them, both knew that the road ahead wouldn't always be easy. But they were ready to face it together, confident that love could bridge even the widest divides. If you enjoyed this heartfelt story, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more amazing tales. Your support keeps us going.